Hope everybody's doing good. I'm just chilling. Oh, I just finished up a quick workout in the garage. Um, Hope your guys' days are going well. Yeah. Hope you guys are having a good Thursday. But yeah, I wanted to whatever's cool, whatever you guys want to do. If you guys want to send me any chat messages or say what's up, say chat or say nada. I'm just setting up a poll. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, so I got this debate thing coming up soon. I'm going to be talking about masculinity in politics. What do you guys think about masculinity or about like red pill stuff? Is it possible to be a man in 2025, or do you think that if you're a dude, you're automatically a dude? Do you think like if you're MAGA or if you're a Democrat or whatever, you're automatically a dude? I don't know. It's weird. Donald Trump's one of these kind of guys that like, as president, he seems to say that like, look, you can make an argument about what you want to do and what you really believe, and you can just go out and chase and pursue that stuff. I don't know how much I believe it, but yeah. So blang, blat blat. What up, AK Bubble Guts? Hope you're doing well. Do you like older black men? Yeah, for sure. I like all people, irrespective of race. Race, make, shape, size, creed. I don't really care. I like people that are good writers. I like people that are nice. I like athletic people. I like all people. Yeah, sure. In the bedroom, for sure. I could have a subjective stance about older black men in the bedroom if I wanted to. I don't know how often I would share that if I did. But hey, Shane. Good to see you. Trithol. That's Trithol. That's a cool last name. It reminds me of like something from like Game of Thrones. Shane Lannister. Shane Trithol of the North and the South. Shane Trithol of all places, man is man. All places, woman is woman. All places, people are free. All places, everywhere. I'm good, AK Bubble Guts. I just finished a workout in my garage and yeah, trying to have a good time and stuff. Those garage streams are cool, but like when my like motor cortex and everything's going, I'm like all, my gym and fridge is like, hoo, I have a hard time putting together like really coherent thoughts, right? Like some dude in chat earlier asked me like, how do I grow my lats? If I'm stuck growing my lats? That was a cool question, right? I have fun answering those types of questions. I can think about it, especially if I've got a little 4x4 space in my garage right now. It's like, yeah, bro, chick, whoever you are, person, I can talk to you about lat growth. I can talk to you about gym and fridge stuff. But, so how am I doing? I'm just trying to settle back. I'm trying to relax personally a little bit right now. Kind of catch my breath, gather my thoughts, all that kind of stuff. Cornus Pashti. Yeah. Tragic. Some people don't understand that if I say something like tragic, I mean great. Greatness, I mean greatness, but also the greatness of someone just considering. Yeah, on Thursdays, on Fridays for sure, on Saturday, Sunday, now we're playing. Yeah, there's a place in Phoenix called Cornish Pasty. It's been featured on like diners, drive-ins, and drives and stuff. Yeah, thanks, Roz. I feel horrible. What does Ducks Y mean? I mean, for my like actual content on my channel, do I yeah. For my actual content on my channel and stuff, I try and answer questions that I had and that I still have, right? I still learn when I make videos and stuff, which is cool. I'm trying to put out truthful, authentic content. So, my name online is Duck. I go by Duck. So Ducks Y just means like, well, yeah, what are we answering together, Yeah, I don't know. There's like Twitch IRL streamers and stuff that I think do a really good job trying to give people some life information, life wisdom, kind of a cool, safe space to hang out. So, with Ducks Y, I'm not trying to do like super hardcore IRL stuff. I mean, kind of depending what you guys want to do, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not that big of a social leader. I've got my experience, knowledge, wisdom, and yeah, that's also, so Ducks Y is really just saying like, what can I say about the world? And yeah, I had to shut down my OnlyFans account. So no, I don't have an OnlyFans account. I do support adult entertainment creators and stuff. I think they get judged enough as it is. I think there's enough sort of social problems. To me, that's sort of what, based on the title of the video and stuff, I think masculinity is also supporting, like I think it can be said to be masculine. Like, yeah, I'm supporting some of these creators and whatever and stuff, I see it as like, even if not financially, I'll just say, yeah, these people are pretty cool, bada bing, bada boom, all that kind of stuff. I don't think about it that much, but I got my beliefs and opinions. Hey, what's up, Belinda Blair, Rich, Beauty, and Forever? Yummy, California there? Hell yeah. I see you out there. Cool. Yummy, yummy, California. Aubrey asks if I'm in a relationship. I don't talk about that stuff online. Online, I would say, like creators should try and collaborate professionally. It's really cool to hop on people's streams for a couple minutes. We did open panel the other day and stuff, but like, yeah, I think it's important that sort of, like building relationships with both your audience and other creators. And yeah, this is YouTube, right? So I love chatting to you guys in chat. I think I've seen Baby Bro before, FHG, a bunch of you guys I recognize a little bit. I could go through the list for sure, but like, I should also be able to make a short or video. And if it hops in your feed, right, we have that like 1-2 second interaction. You guys decide if you want to watch or not, obviously. So I'm not trying to be like super, whatever, like I don't want to be a beach bum about content and talking to you guys and stuff. But I also don't want to, like say like, my name's Duck, my name's Nathan, I ask you guys to like and subscribe, and that's about how far any of that stuff goes. He took it too far, bro. He took it way too far, dog. So it's not that big of a deal, but FHG says, I think porn should be, adult films should be abolished and made illegal. Yeah, just be careful about like the way you word some of those questions, just for YouTube TOS. But as a social idea and policy, I think you'd have to overcome, for me, the argument about free speech and free expression and privacy, right? There's almost this question like, if we're regulating adult films, aren't we actually asking what people think like and their philosophies? The government is allowed to ask a census data, right? They can ask about your demographics, but it sounds really weird to send out a survey and be like, well, what are your moral positions on all this stuff? Yeah, it'll never be bankrupt. It's a good business, and parents need to be more guidance. So like adult entertainment, OnlyFans stuff, like the ethics, meta ethics, and philosophy of this kind of stuff. Yeah, specific state politicians and stuff like that have said, you got to put controls and restrictions on it. There's good reasons to think that those laws don't work the way a lot of people think they do. You know, you know, um, keep your timber limber. You will be a hard man to beat. Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea, Mark Farrell. Who would you interview? Batman or Joker? Batman or Joker? Probably neither. Both are very scary, right? Batman in real life, IRL Batman, is like a terrifying dude, right? He's a dude that was crazy enough to say, I'm going to go fight who I think are bad guys. And in the comic book version, all the bad guys are bad guys that are super obvious. But IRL, is it like that? And then I'm going to market and advertise myself in order to conceal my identity. So very scary. I'd probably rather interview Joker a little bit, whatever. I don't know. How often would Joker have people asking, like, what do you actually think, dude? What do you actually believe or know? I don't actually know, dude. I'm not actually sure. So I'd try to be nice a little bit, and I'd want to know what he thinks about stuff. It's bad for health, but still selling it because it's good business and where the money and the government is getting money. Yeah. So for tax revenue, yeah, who knows? Some people might say that in the early days, the United States was actually more prohibitive. We could look at old religious inspired laws and kind of chalk those up, moral laws and stuff like that, and chalk those up to just, well, we didn't have Supreme Court decisions about like, what's it called? We didn't have the Supreme Court telling us that, yeah, even a community law, municipal, sort of that law of the land stuff, you still got to abide by the Constitution. And so, if we're talking about putting cigarettes, lumping those in with adult entertainment or OnlyFans, yeah, who knows? Who knows? All of us Filipinos love Trump. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, you guys also love Duarte, so Rodrigo, I don't know. Couldn't say for sure. Your message got caught. I don't know how to say your name. Sorry. So, but saying I'd like to wrestle with women. Yeah, I wrestled in high school. There are a couple. This was 2007, so I think it was less common. But there are a couple female wrestlers in my district in different weight classes and stuff. So we would see girls wrestling at meets and stuff like that. Yeah. Extreme left-wing lunatics. I mean, Democrats are the laughingstock right now. Yeah, it's a really mean way to say that. I don't know if I agree entirely, but yeah. No, it's true. Whatever. Kamala Harris won 49% of the vote. So, yeah, it was like 48.9, 49% of the vote. It's the same thing. So she won half of people in the United States made a political decision to vote for her. So, if you guys think that there's a runaway train in politics right now, and this isn't just bluster, name one policy. Yeah, the small business one. I talk about the small business policy all the time. The Democrat foreign policy, which bleeds towards normalization and open diplomatic channels, versus, trusted and verifiable security avenues, is a lot better, in my opinion. It's more peaceful. So we could probably go through policies, And I would look at Kamala, like if you wanted to, you could compare the socialist, the Democratic Socialist in New York, Zohran Mamdani, or like AOC's policies and policy packages she wants passed. And yeah, maybe I don't totally understand some of those, but Kamala Harris was I felt a very centrist, moderate, common sense, ambitious politician, a very ambitious politician. And this is the same thing. Donald Trump with the Abraham Accords wasn't ambitious. Joe Biden talking about normalizing relationships between Gaza and Arab nations in the Middle East with Israel and having some outside understandability. Very common sense, very ambitious. So there's lots of examples. Yeah, my MAGA friends, Trump guys, where are we at? Let me know. Speak simply. Steven says, little center for my personal taste, but I still voted for. Yeah. I got a bunch of friends on Discord and stuff, Steven, so I'm not saying I know what you know, but I've had long arguments on like some, further left, discussion, secular, joint politics, religion places about like, what's a fair shot for workers, for folks doing the blue collar, hourly, ambitious thing, people that want to feel good about buying a house when they're able to do that. There's a lot of unification on the left about those types of questions, and there's people that say the system is set up unfairly for managers and, we bias people. I don't know about all that stuff. I want to give everyone a fair shot, right? Dude, my family in Dubai, UAE, and became of Abraham Accords. There was peace between UAE and Israel before that, right? UAE is involved in Sudanese. I believe UAE has been accused of funding the Jalawid or whatever it is, Jawawid in Sudan. And so understanding sort of the totality of diplomatic packages, how do the Abraham Accords solve for that? I think you're just telling me that I think your opinion is that I will eventually believe your opinion, even if your opinion has nothing to do with reality. I'm not saying that that's the only conversation, but this conversation is like that to me. Yeah, FHD, Anna Kasparian, if you guys know the Young Turks, she's no longer Young Turks, but a lot of these commentators say, there's a pro-Israel position, pro-Israel position in Biden. Donald Trump's pro-Israel. And so there's not normalization. If you're supporting Israel, you're supporting Israel, right? And maybe that's true, but, I think if you add a term like nation building, you say there's conditional, there are conditionals. And those conditionals are about navigation as well as negotiation and discussion. That's still very pro-Israel. It's very pro what the United States can understand, and it's also very pro-outcome. It's very political. Yeah, Daniela voted for Trump. Cool. Yeah, we're talking a little foreign policy. We're talking about what makes sense, like how you climbed the ladder and saw, when you got to the top of the staircase, you said, well, Donald Trump is the guy that's doing this. Donald Trump is the guy doing this, or whatever, whatever it is. So I'd love to know what you think. How do you get yourself up there to have that conversation or dialogue? Abu Dhabi for 4 years. Cool. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, I'd love to hear about what it's like living in Abu Dhabi. I'd love to know what, sort of your politics, if that's changed, develop a little trust for your sort of experience and the argument you make. I'd like to see that stuff. What do you think of the Parker guy? He's a blogger and anti-Trump. He debates Trump supporters on live stream. I think they're all scripted that make Trump supporters look dumb. Yeah, I think Parker is like some 20-year-old guy. He and I probably don't actually agree on very many political decisions and stuff. I think it's disingenuous if you say, well, look at my life. Like, look at where I go in my television. To have a look at my laptop and my smartphone, my browser history, and look at the people that most Trump supporters talk about. You know, just yesterday, Ted Cruz was on Fox News, guys. And by the way, if you like Fox or if you don't like Fox, either way, if you want to like the stream and support it, that's appreciated. If you want to subscribe, that's cool. But yeah, sorry for being ego and selfish. But yeah, Daniela and any other Trump folks who are anti-progressive politics, like, help me get out of this space where I see it. My perspective is, if you see it as just you have to be anti people who are anti-Trump, then why doesn't that apply on the other side? You know, if I see Ted Cruz going out and lying to people or hiding his arguments in rhetoric, I'll talk about that, right? Ted Cruz was a senator. When I'm allowed to say Ted Cruz was a representative in government, I'd rather have that conversation. I don't know if that makes sense or whatever, but we got to be able to climb up a little bit and just peek over to have that conversation. But yeah, Parker does debates and stuff. You know, there's people, I just subscribed to Straighter Aid. She's really cool. She does YouTube and stuff. There's lots of people. Parker get a job. He's pretty popular. He made good points. Yeah, let people have hard-fought conversations. I'm going to be excited to see all of those Trump supporters, all of the, super democratic people. Jola Talks Politics is another big one. Eventually they're going to have hard-fought conversations and points that don't have a clear answer. You're not going to make everybody happy, but yeah, try me. Browser history. Incognito, I go to Breaking Points, Young Turks, young whatever. It's just what we do in our spare time. If you're into politics and philosophy, I've got Wikipedia and Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy open in a spare tab in a spare bedroom. No politics. So you're talking about UAE, Abu Dhabi. No politics, no crimes, and a very high standard of living. I have a UFC fight coming up this weekend. Yeah, that's really hard to debate or discuss. Yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of benefits to homogeneity. So this isn't about your argument. If you enjoy living there, you don't see it having to be political. You don't see a high crime rate. You see a high standard of living. That's really cool, Yeah, good folks to do business with. The business of perhaps a little bit of finance, a little bit of energy, a little bit of shipping, a little brokering, lots of good stuff. Yeah, I appreciate that. I respect that. If that is what your society is, I respect that. I think Donald Trump is the perfect woman when it comes to foreign exchange businessman. He knows how to handle the pressure and make our economy better. Yeah. I think it's condescending. So here's my counterpoint to that. I think it's condescending to tell people how capitalism works. Donald Trump's point is let me tell you how to make a deal, and we have to be able to talk about the best ideas and what's working and what you want to do. It's well, that's already what people do just naturally. So to me, I would need a little bit more, Daniela. I would need to see a bit more, but Jeffrey C. Dale doesn't make money. I don't know what you're talking about whether it makes money or not. If you got another comment for context, I can help answer that. Happy to do that and stuff, whatever. Abu Dhabi is in the UAE. Cool. Yeah, Donald Trump can be a man or a woman and stuff. Understood. Cool. Yeah. So, but yeah, when someone like Joe Biden talks about foreign policy, it's interesting. They might talk about BRICS, which is a big geopolitical thing right now. Democrats and Republicans should be thinking about how the United States supports nations doing nation building, development, modernization, and how we approach those same topics of nation building here. How can we remain true to our American identity and do nation building? Two very simple ideas, from academics. And yeah, so those terms are almost a catch-all from my perspective and stuff like that. And yeah, so I'm huge friends with not just politicians that get out on the microphone, they're transparent, they say, "What's up, everybody?" But they also, they're pretty cool about a lot of stuff. So yeah. He just signed 3 tariff deals with the Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia. Yeah, check the White House website. Yeah, so it was reducing, I think, tariffs to 15% with Japan or something, or 10%, and then there's a vehicle excise tax or something like that. I didn't see that one at all. And so I'll have to go onto the website and maybe we can talk more about the trade deals. But, again, sort of condescending, when you're telling business owners that to sell to the United States, you have to make it worth the United States' time. I don't understand how that actually solves problems in liberalism. And I don't see how it even makes like BRICS countries or other countries compete compete and plan in a useful way. If I understand how you're competing, how you're planning, kind of tough. And so, if I were to support tariffs, if Donald Trump did he came out and said, we're going to do 3 months of tariffs, we're not negotiating. I just want you guys to see how painful it is when it's hard to do business together and when we can't plan around and outside of it. Maybe, but Donald Trump is lying to people and saying, well, I wrote about this in my book. Donald Trump is saying, when I published my memoir and strategy before my first term, I'm going to tell you what capitalism is. And it's not, again, tell me why, if you guys want to debate or discuss this a little bit, tell me why you don't need to show people around the world pictures of buildings. You don't need to show people pictures of what a building is. Osama bin Laden's dad from Saudi Arabia, he built buildings. He owned a construction company. People already know how to build buildings. I don't need to see pictures of your family. I don't need to see pictures of you growing up. I know people have family. That's how humans work. That is how biological life works. So we're doing a little bit of Donald Trump MAGA rhetoric and discussion debate. I'm a little center progressive. So if you guys want to talk philosophy or masculinity a little bit or whatever, I'm cool to talk about some of those topics too. But yeah, and Jeffrey, sorry to leave you hanging. Jeffrey says nation building equals manifest destiny. And my opinion of this, I sort of agree with it, right? From like a liberation standpoint, we can see places like Chile, who've had a really, who've had a really hard go just deciding borders and stuff like this. This is Latin American politics. We can see cases where all throughout history in Europe, there were huge wars, and you didn't really know, are we fighting because we're Christians, Jews, and Muslims, or are we fighting because of, like national manifest destiny? And so the truth of all of this is that the bigger truth is, to me, I think nation building encapsulates a lot of like human nature and desire. I don't think nation building is just manifest destiny. And I think, yeah, like people that study Caribbean politics and other stuff in the Northern Hemisphere might also say like, well, yeah, healthcare has always been this diplomatic lever for the United States, and it's not really as helpful. It's necessary, it's important, but it's not like as helpful as the United States has said, like, we'll build your healthcare, Haiti, we'll help with that stuff. That's not manifest destiny or nation building or whatever it is. But yeah. So people lie about it. Seems the topic is jealousy and rage over actual accomplishments versus this dude thinking he's owed what others earn. Yeah, attrition, if you want to talk about taxation or you want to talk about just like, if you've had, here's my counter argument, is if you've had opinions or beliefs about going to college or going to school or starting a business, like tell me, walk through how that actually works. And so if you're just arguing take less, well, let's talk about that. If you're going to accuse me of theft from the beginning, that's not an argument I truly actually have to respond to, because it turns out most people think about their kids' healthcare, their kids' schooling. We think about our own healthcare, our own schooling, our own career prospects, and we think about what changes in 5 or 10 years, right? We're natural sort of risk optimization sort of creatures. So that's my response to you, attrition. Yeah, not my view, but I appreciate it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wish I could give you something more satisfying about nation building. I would point to in the US, we saw a stacking. In the US, we saw civil rights and racial rights intersecting with like the primary and secondary education system. And so in terms of nation building in the US saying, yeah, we did a lot of nation building. And this is the stuff that was important and actually worked. That's my most honest discussion. That's the most honest discussion that we could have about why that makes sense and why it works, right? So, gee, Hints, you must be living a rock. Over 100 billion fees are collected because of tariffs. Oh, the giant. I see you, bro. I see you out there, bro. Someone's talking about American-made products. Yeah. I always think of that secondary just in terms of my own epistemology or my own metaphysics of economics. When I buy something, this is from Daniela, a little up in chat. NDA is talking about Epstein files. I don't think we're going to get anywhere on Epstein. You should go watch that Bernie video, though, guys. If you guys haven't seen Bernie Sanders on the Epstein videos, obviously like the stream and don't leave. Subscribe first. But Epstein did a video. Yeah, but yeah, I'm sorry to be rushing all over the place, but with American Made, it's like if my desire is to have a sweater or a sweatshirt or a lamp, I love lamps. Like I want light first. The first thing I'm asking for is let's light up this room a little bit. I don't want it always to be lit, but I would like a lamp so I can control when my light is on. I can think about it. I can get better at this skill of turning my lamp off and on. And turns out lamps from a lot of places do that. I do miss American-made quality. Old Cannondale bikes were really awesome. Lucky Palmer, actually, the Andro, the AI robot, killer robot guy, he's rumored to maybe start a new American PC company, probably trying to make chips with AI capabilities and stuff like this, and maybe some sort of IoT network stuff. So for my real comp sci audience folks, super big tech and society folks, that's a big story. I don't know if I support that or how I feel about it, but he's allowed to try. He's allowed to make the argument, and let's actually talk about it, But yeah, American Made. If you guys believe in American Made, not prison made or something like that. Hey, thanks, Lucid. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, maybe not the stream for you particularly, but yeah, you're welcome to stay and hang out. I can't do anything other than what I'm doing now, so I don't know how to respond. I appreciate your feedback though. And yeah, quality and capitalism don't mix. Flip Wilson sounds like a cynical capitalist or a tongue-in-cheek socialist. Quality and capitalism. Do you guys understand why I'm making my response to this? Do you guys understand that? Yeah. I like your even-handed stance. Subscribe. Thanks, Space Shot. If you're still here, shout out to you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Let's see. JB, why is there always a jerk like you in the chat? You make some content, can critique you, deal. Space Shot message got auto-modded for no reason, but yeah, I didn't see JB anywhere. Why even have society? This got blocked too by the YouTube moderator. Why even have a society? I guess it's just every man for himself. Your liberal worldview is disgusting. Yeah, I don't know if that's a more libertarian worldview, but yeah, my view of liberalism in my heart of hearts is that, well, we already come to the table with so many ideas about society, and these are philosophical ideas. These aren't even ideas about what I can do with my own life. It's just ideas about, well, how many old problems am I going to solve if we're already living in a stable, peaceful society? So I don't know if it's liberalism or liberaceism, but yeah. For a moment like this, some people wait a lifetime. Yeah. And so if you guys have seen Walking Dead, there's a character called like Deegan or something like that. I forgot. There's a couple. There's also a character called the Governor. These are American zombie shows. And so people are rebuilding society. And so I sort of draw that aesthetic analogy, right? And the aesthetic analogy is that, well, if I want to be as free as possible and doing libertarian philosophy, politics, living in real life, isn't it the case that I'm actually just asking to rebuild my own leadership society? And so why do we tell people that you need a business, you need a church, you need a community? And there's still a lot of reasons why people don't do that, right? There's a lot of reasons why in the state of nature, it's people living in small communities with their family. And so now you're starting to sound more like a far left apologist talking about, oh, the crisis of modernity, Jordan Peterson, I can't live with all these people in a society who don't have purpose and don't fold their clothes and make their beds. And while I'm trying to do this, it's just so sad because the purpose of this is it's the madness and insanity. But if I could do it myself, it would be better. It seems absurd to me. So Flip Wilson makes a good point here. I'm not trying to interject into your conversation, but what do you guys think? Capitalism always leads to monopoly. Capitalism always leads to monopoly. There's perfectly competitive markets. There's also oligopic markets. There's oligopic competition. And there's network markets as well, where you have a network model. You talk about the size and scope of distribution and the cost. So there's actually really, I would say, at least those four primary modalities you should know about that aren't monopolies. I sense there's a lot more to what Flip is actually saying here. Yeah, Space Shot says, lucky Matt Gatz's brother-in-law. Yeah, really passionate guy doing his best to represent stuff. And then it comes out that he might have had what appeared to be, a scumbag period or scumbag moment. And so, it's really difficult, even if you're trying to be really good faith to his ideas in politics, because they're so important, to say that, well, let's not even get close to victim blaming or denying sort of some of actual, if reality happened, then people deserve to know, because you're supposed to be saying all the most important ideas in society. Maybe you're still doing that, but hey, Jeremy DeLay, please don't ask like doxing questions and stuff. I don't know. Just here. I hope you're doing well, brother. I'm just going to time you out for 10 seconds to delete those messages. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, not a big deal. I hope it's just really easy to get there. So yeah, Colel Irvwin. Yeah, somebody's getting cooked in the chat for being a philosopher. Sir Philip, or he's getting knighted. He's getting knighted and cooked at the same time, guys. That's really thug. I don't know. Flip Wilson might be the most gangster person to have ever stopped by chat. Free market and capitalism are separate things. Yeah. I don't know if you think one is more philosophical and one is more quantitative. One has those qualitative things or what? But qualitative and qualitative are often those subjective, they're descriptions. So they might be subjective in a sense. In social science, it's kind of like, let's say I go interview the mothers and church leaders of people who went off and joined ISIS or something. And I'm saying that everyone who joins ISIS is an extremist. They're political extremists. They might be violent extremists. They're at least one of the two. And so if I'm a sociologist, I can say, well, the data I get is objective as data because someone said that, right? And someone objectively has this relationship in society, but it's still, they're telling me something subjective. Jhor seems like the knowledgeable one on this, and then quantitative, so qualitative is binary. It's on or off. It's on or off. Yeah. Okay. And so I have to quantify it in some way. I have to make it binary. I might not know enough about research methodology. I haven't done that stuff in like 15 years, but yeah. And then the other side is quantitative, right? So if I can just track the price of like stock selling, or I can track the number of voters from different counties, and I know their zip code or something. That's quantitative. That's quantitative. Trying to bring a group away. Space Shot 76, I don't know what you're talking about. I do shows and also have to listen to people who drone on about how they don't like rather than just leaving. I don't know what you're saying exactly, but I appreciate the sentiment. If you want to clarify, or if you're just talking in chat, it's cool as well. Obviously, not my. A man took my girlfriend and I loved her. I met her at Walmart buying dog food and now she's gone. I'm sorry to hear that, Sam. I don't know that I've got that deep of self-help stuff, but yeah. It's about quality, blue, green, orange. Yeah. So that sounds like Jhor is getting into the more philosophical, metaphysical side of what qualitative means. You can say, well, it's actual reality that you see blue, green, orange. It could be the case that's not true, right? It could be the case that that's very not true. But yeah, like you know, that's different than social science, right? So if you're making a philosophical point, you're still saying, well, this philosophical being, a person, is still going to do social science. So this is a categorization, or something. A word that requires disambiguation is a good word. Do you guys know disambiguation at all? But we're talking about different things, even though I think we agree about a lot of the points, right? There's some disagreement for sure, but we're talking about stocks and crypto here. Doug Alvarado. Hey, thanks, Rexy. I don't try to be handsome. I wouldn't, no need to say that, but I appreciate you for sure for saying it. I appreciate you for sure. Hey, what up, Eden Star? Trump being a good man, it's objectively not true. He's convicted for objectively bad behaviors, from racism to fraud to SA. Yeah, he has both civil as well as criminal cases. You know, he's had legal entities taken away. You know, he's good at spinning these arguments around, and by good, I mean he does it, right? He's good at sort of matching up to what people believe and think, and perhaps not good at actually unpacking the meaning behind some of this. And so, yeah, you know, if some people are always going to argue that Donald Trump's a bad person, right? Donald Trump's a bad person, and it's difficult to get around it. I think he's not an effective president. I always argue I think Donald Trump's first term was one of the worst in US history. So, hey guys, please be careful with the directed messages towards other users, even if it's consensual. I don't want any harassment in my chat. I appreciate you guys. But yeah, let's be a little cautious here. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, Diego, if you just went to an all-you-can-eat buffet, I appreciate that. You're going to bust. Look at China. You'll never win. Hey, Firefox 420. No, bro. Look at China. You'll never win in a fully free market if someone uses slave and you need rules. No company compete with that. Yeah. Yeah, China's a pretty diverse country in some ways. You have definitely political hegemony with the Chinese Communist Party. You also have places like Hong Kong, I think Hong Kong is a little more diverse than like Beijing, say. I could be wrong about that. You have a lot of rural versus urban areas, like a lot of other places. So the sociological sort of demographics of China are a certain way. I think people wonder how Chinese capitalism will continue to evolve and compete while China remains under sort of this umbrella. But yeah, I think we should be competing with China, in terms of products and the general directions of markets. I don't think Donald Trump's tariffs are actually responding to anti-competitive forces that might look to come from China. And saying that the US has similar challenges and problems in our own high-tech sectors and computing, and our own traditional manufacturing sectors is totally saying that, like, look, we're talking about competing, but we're also talking about over time sharing what we've learned and sharing what we've learned in the best way possible. So, and yeah, I don't understand how that's really that confusing in the first place. It's not. It's really not. You look like a warrior from Bronze Dynasty. Thank you. I read a lot of Wikipedia. That's about my level of knowledge. Is I can read Trump book. I can read Great Again, and we can break down arguments, and then I can deconstruct what a lentil porridge is like with mead or something. I understand it's a $1 billion industry. Yeah, so Jay Hoare is insisting, if we've got any folks who believe in idealism or believe that experience is a real category, I don't know. Immanuel Kant believes that we do have experience, but he also says that it's always filtered by these concept orientations of space and time. And so you have experience, but those experiences also do have physical quantities associated to them. So maybe it's not what he thinks experience is actually from or about, but you still have quantities. Not a big deal, but it's a small point, and maybe it's not right, but sorry, guys. IRL stream, 35-year-old IRL stream, guys. Smash like, smash subscribe, double tap that screen, tap the like at the top, and forgive me while I let me clear my throat. You seem very analytical. What are your lives? Thanks, Eden Star. Yeah, I like narratives and stories actually quite a bit. I'm a big fan of stories. So if I seem analytical, I like understanding, kind of like the big 20, 30-year stories and stuff like that. And yeah, but I appreciate it. Yeah, I like breaking down ideas and making arguments and stuff like that. I used to write a bunch. I used to do a bunch of stuff. And so I used to work with data a little bit in my job in tech, like a long time ago, 5 years ago. And so some of those skills maybe came from that a little bit. Good evening from Puerto Rico. La Máquina de Santos Canem. Hey, good to see you. Hello, hope you're well. Cheers from the U.S. mainland. Epstein and Trump had no scruples. Even bad person can be a good leader. Besides, we all have flaws. No one is perfect. Yeah, even a bad person can be a good leader. Yeah, Daniela, I don't know how you're judging goodness and badness, but yeah, if I can agree with that a little bit, like I think someone like Henry Kissinger, his strategy has to be understood as a thing that's not about Henry Kissinger. But then you can also say this is the guy that ordered secret bombing campaigns in Southeast Asia, right? And so you can say that, maybe there's a context where a bad person who orders secret bombing campaigns had a strategy that was somehow described as optimal or minimal. Maybe that's true. but is that person actually a leader? Shouldn't Henry Kissinger have been the analyst and not the leader? Or what would that system or scheme would have looked like? You know, why was it the case that we did have? It was the case that maybe under the Abraham Accords or maybe during the Cold War, it was just accepted that you had oligarchs all around the world. You had power and decision authority filtering up to a small amount of people, and it was what people understood, so it happened. But the leaders, people like Henry Kissinger or Donald Trump, would it have been fair for me to ask them, well, aren't you the person who's adopting this strategy that only involves a small number of people? And so maybe you're totally anti-authority, anti-authoritarian, all this stuff, and yeah, but hey, what's up, 40 Plum? Yeah, I'll just point out, you guys, yeah, you're allowed to voice your opinion about homosexuality. Guys like Ron Paul, even libertarians, some people have stood up and they stand up and they say, it's actually inappropriate for the government to regulate a relationship or what he called free association, guys. Okay, so we're not that, we're not that far center or left that I want to do free speech stuff right now, even if I disagree or would debate a point that people are making, even if I don't totally understand. And yeah, Patty Melt, I'll go up and read some of the questions before after this, but yeah. And so managing this sort of free speech thing, I would say that libertarians talk about free association. And so they say every person is capable of free association. So let's see what I'm getting yelled at for real quick. Hey, what's up, Eli? Why? I discovered that I'm gay since I discovered my sexual life. I love being gay. I want to be with a man and have a clean relationship. Yeah, you can have a moral stance about sexuality. You can have a moral position that it's good to be gay. You can have a moral stance about sex. I think it's often the case, to me, if you can generalize it and say, well, the reason it's good that I'm promiscuous, or the reason that it's good that I'm in a relationship with same sex and I appreciate that, is because of those values are like other values, or the things, the sort of life experience and the whatever actually happens that's of moral fiber is moral in the same way other things are moral. So yeah, and so instead of like divine command theory, I don't know if some of you guys believe this, that God gives us morality, and this is big morality that's everywhere. Once God says it, he said it, and you can go out and discover and find that that's what morality is about. And then you can also say, there's moral precepts, axiomatic ways of thinking, like don't steal, typically don't steal. Stealing is taking something from someone else, so it's hurting their well-being. There's virtue ethics. So if you think identity is like tangible enough that it's a virtue, who knows? Maybe there's like a small g gay and there's tall g gay. And so your position is that a tall g gay person is usually small g gay in some way, right? They have, just like a tall m man is small m man in some way. Sorry if this is making you guys uncomfortable. If you haven't done philosophy around this, no offense, but and so small g gay and small m men, small w women, or whatever that identity is, have specific values. Some of those values might just be about being gay or being a man or being a woman, but some of those might be actually about well-being. I don't know. Patty Melt says, what are tariffs and raising prices affecting the middle class? Okay, while giving major tax cut to billionaires. Cool. I got to your question eventually. And yeah, so you're mad about the pragmatic effects of tariffs, which I think is very fair. You're saying that, well, who knows? There's a reason prices are what they are. Not only this, but there's a reason we support the middle class, and there's a reason we tax billionaires. Maybe there's a reason that the organic mechanisms of this happening, or center progressive sort of social safety nets, are better at affecting these things. We look at both Keynesian and supply side economics. Lots of ideas in there. So yeah, that's sort of a question. It's sort of a statement as well. If I had to respond to this a little bit, I would say that, well, yeah, the tariffs, no one's really clear what Donald Trump wants to do with tariffs long term, what Republicans want to do with tariffs long term. And so all we really have is both this short term certainty about the effect of tariffs, and long term, we have a certainty about, well, they're going to keep having effects, and we don't know what those are necessarily. So I think we should get the United States back to understandability. Oh, good to see you, GT. Experience is a real category. We got a couple folks in chat that are talking about experience. This is very exciting. Let me switch back over here real quick. Corporate surveillance. Yeah, I don't think corporations should rely on invasions of privacy or anything like that. Like, corporations shouldn't usually be intelligence organizations. They should be more data and analytic driven. I think when there's questions about corporate ethics, those should be, new programs that go beyond data and analytics and just broad market data capture. Europe's got GDPR. I think companies are good at finding ways to get around that to make informed decisions so they can be ambitious. So I think the CEO should always, the CEO and probably the board of directors should be involved in risk producing decisions. And usually, yeah, it's probably more important that you have a good CISO, so a chief information security officer, whatever it is. You've got a COO that understands security versus knowing that, your opponent or enemy is making 400,000 more units of some product next year. Like, you should have been able to come up with that without that piece of information. And so why is it the case you have to be behind the curve and someone else tells you that? That makes your business way weaker. You shouldn't ask about that, or you should just be able to talk about it. Dudes don't take women. Women make choices because women are people. Yeah, cool. You can tell the tariffs are reactionary or emotional stimulus. There's several deep dives into his advisor, who made an econ expert to give himself cred in his book. Yeah, Donald Trump talked about winning a lot. I'm sorry to skip through a bunch of comments, but I see you guys at the bottom of the text thread now. If you guys want to tap the like and subscribe, I do appreciate it. If you enjoy the stream, that would be the logic or common sense behind it. How to get worse at CODM. Why ducks? I like ducks. I see ducks every day. Hello, and ducks why? Yeah. Okay. I am duck. This is ducks why. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Why do we drive in parkways and park in driveways? Aaron, funny dude. Cool, Belinda. That's very cool. Flip, if you don't want to hear the truth that you're being rude, I don't know what to tell you. And you can switch to increase the price of it. Palantir. Yeah, Palantir is a technically excellent product. So it's a really strong graph database, which means you can put together a ton of different views of structured data. I believe they have AI as well, so you can pull from unstructured data. It's a little sketchy. I think there's a lot of questions about, well, it's true in any sort of work center that if you're deploying technology for efficacy and efficiency, you can always lose some of the training aspects. Your culture has to adapt, all kinds of stuff. It's doubly scary in a political sense when you do have this powerful technology that can maybe, but you already are seeing elements of militarization. You're not totally clear on individual rights in some cases. In the US, we had, I think her name was Brianna, but, we had someone, I don't know if Palantir was involved in the process, but she got killed in a no-knock warrant in her apartment and stuff. And so, you see this stuff and you say, well, no crime, even the crime of being accused of capital murder or something, you shouldn't get shot while you're getting arrested. Like, certainly, you shouldn't get killed getting arrested. So Palantir kind of plays on the edges of that stuff, I think. To me, yeah, Peter Thiel was very smart and is very wealthy because he went into government technology. And I don't, who knows? That's probably a more complex conversation that I would be excited to have about, well, what's the actual role of technology in society when we're talking about building a more ethical, the best system possible, and not just sort of sitting in our own stink. But that's Palantir. You guys can go on Palantir's website, right? I hear people like all day Duck here is, oh, Palantir this, Palantir that. How many people have been on Palantir's website? You can go on Palantir's website. Go see what they actually do. Go see who they sell to. I don't think it's a bad thing that a local sheriff's department can be putting together a budget and say, I need to set up a meeting with Palantir. I don't think it's a good thing that that sheriff feels compelled that they have to do that, and that, if they feel that way and that there's not a better resource to manage and solve their problems in the short term. So those types of changes always take a long time. You think they're intuitive and then they don't make sense. And then you see politicians and society, you see people acting like lunatics. And it's not the people that are ever victimized by police. It's usually the people who are commenting on the system. It's changed my mind. That's a big deal to me. If you're going to be a commentator on this stuff, be smart about it. Just be smart, guys. Let me set up my own rules for you out in the world. If that makes you guys uncomfortable, my bad. Dan's mother was part of the Autobahn, maybe she did bird washing. Birds are dinosaurs, so I think people that watch birds are just like watching dinosaurs. They're big Jurassic Park fans. Yeah, I like ducks a bunch. They're cool. The only thing that Trump tariffs have done is remove us from the global markets. Countries like Canada are just buying elsewhere. That isn't coming back after Trump leaves. Neo Sapiens knows what's up, and ducks are crazy endurance athletes. They fly at least 2,000 miles north-south 2 times a year. Crazy. Ducks are insane, and they're cool. Ducks are really nice. Sometimes they'll walk up to you, especially if they think you have food or they see you're friendly. They're very smart like that. But sometimes ducks will just be sitting there and they'll turn and like a duck will turn and look at you, or just like kind of pop his head up a little bit, and it's like, well, that's a dinosaur, right? That's a very small T-Rex that I would not fight. I would not mess with that duck. Jeff Dale seems to know a couple issues that might be good to discuss on stream at some point. Maybe we can do open panels or discussions. If you guys, I don't know, that's all I can say or do is, like, if you guys want to talk Ukraine, if you guys want to talk about politics in the Middle East, Arab countries, if you guys want to bring in the issue of ethnicity, culture, race, history, and the actual states, the actual borderlines, and if you guys want to talk China a little bit, that would be cool. Yeah, China's got the biggest swinging, D in the world right now. And yeah, we should believe we can compete even with that going on. And the United States, still a big country, still a huge country. Countries like, this is what I wrote. I published a Substack. It's on my post history on my channel. But I do mention that in that Substack article, it's a blog, that Russia, China, and the United States and India are still more or less very isolated compared to countries like Lebanon or maybe the UAE or Israel or Egypt. And so I do believe that there is a special place for countries that are isolated, that are capable of producing justice and, they're sort of a backstop for some things. So we should be talking about China a little bit. We should be talking about Russia and the United States a little bit. Jumanji. Jumanji. Yeah, I do kind of look like Robin Williams. His birthday was just a couple days ago, so rest in peace, Robin Williams. We also got rest in peace Hulk Hogan today. So if you guys hadn't heard, Mitch Hedberg was sweet. Yeah. Yeah. I went to the donut store the other day and I purchased a donut. And after I paid, the lady gave me a receipt. And I said, I do not need a receipt. That is not how this transaction works. I give you my $1.25 and you give me a donut. And that transaction is done. When will I need to prove to someone that I purchased this donut? You guys picture, it's funny to get a receipt for a donut. Hey, Drop, good to see you, homie. We got mods in the chat. We got mods in the chat a little bit. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing good. Thank you for tuning into the stream. My name is Nathan Swift. I go by Duck Online. The channel is called Ducks Y. And yeah, I'm talking a little bit about politics, responding to some Ukraine stuff. Neo-Sapien says, Ukraine is very much on a winning strategy now, cripple logistics while not weakening their own infantry. Yeah, they're saying, if they're saying that one of the responses they can have to Russia is saying, well, if you're going to slow everything down in Europe and the United States by 10%, even if it's as a response, what we can do then, because we're all fighting, we agreed we're going to fight. We didn't agree we're going to fight, but we're going to fight anyways. So this is how this is going down. We're saying that, yeah, we can hit some of your oil infrastructure, and your stuff as it is also going to be 10 or 15% slower and more expensive. So very, very quantitative, very mathematical, game theoretic, perhaps very nasty on both sides. Nasty stuff is what you're probably going to get out, because otherwise, why would you be doing it? What's the nice part about it? Silly duck, yeah. After we lost the title of leader of the free world, Ukraine picked it up, and rightfully so. Yeah, Ukraine. Very instead of us all being really fascinated about how old institutions of oligarchy, even in the 2000s and 2010s, were beginning to sort of wrap around nation building and modernity and development and all these words, nation building. For me, folks, I think nation building is second to none. I know Jay Hoare disagrees with this one in chat. And yeah, I don't know why necessarily, but I know he does disagree, folks. At some point, he disagrees. And so, yeah, we haven't been curious about what Russia's been doing. Russia is really interesting. They have a place where in the coldest parts of the year, it's negative 15 degrees, right? How do you guys govern a place that's negative 15 degrees? And do you have to? So I think it's absurd when we choose violence, and especially when we choose extended periods of violence. I think India is a really interesting place. If we're looking to not use people as a means to an end to describe some solution that might not be sticky, it might not be reliable, it might not make sense, it might not consolidate or whatever. But yeah, if you can be curious, you can be something else instead too, for sure. Have you ever been called the Pancreas King, JK, sir? What is pancreas is for? What is it, like glucose or something? I don't know what the pancreas does. Probably. Yeah. Let's see. What foods am I supposed to eat like once a month for my own pancreas? No, I get called the liver king all the time. It's located in the abdomen and plays a role in both digestion and blood sugar regulation. Yeah, I probably should, dude. Maybe you're a person, you're picking up on something like real. I don't eat a ton of like freaking, like processed sugar. I'm not saying I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy, right? So it is what it is. But yeah, I do fitness streams in the daytime, by the way. If you guys like fitness streams, you can get your content from Greg Doucette or a registered doctor, trainer like Mike Israetel. But if you like chilling a little bit, feel free to tap the like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff too, and whatever. But yeah. So, JK, sir, what is the Russia's end goal now, and get as much ground as possible before a peace deal? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So get as much ground as possible before a peace deal. Yeah, yeah. So Russia's at war. They're fighting. So when a society decides to go to war, it's hard to always understand the actual motivations. It's easy to say something like World War II was caused because Hitler was an autocrat and a racist. Hitler was a national racist autocrat. He had all the power in the country. He was a fascist, and so he wielded that power to do that. It's difficult to understand, like, well, what did the baker think, right? Yeah, there were bakers who, picked up German-made firearms and went to war during World War II. There were a lot of them. Those were the same people that were guards at concentration camps. It's also seems to me that it's true that, well, the best description is that, well, Germany went to war and a lot of people did as well. And so, maybe you're saying this is a weak, maybe this is me being the pancreas king or liver king or whatever. But it's like, yeah, if we can't, if I can't talk to whatever their forum, if I can't talk to Lavrov, if I can't have a conversation with Lavrov or President Vladimir Putin about the people that we would be willing to involve in building more equitable, future-oriented scenarios and stuff like this, and we're not able to sort of separate the reasons for conflict in the ways we naturally, right? Out of 24 hours in a day, actually 23 of the reasons that we don't fight are more important. 23 hours are full of reasons that we don't fight incessantly. So that's my opinion, is that we have to be able to talk diplomatically to the Russians. And from the US perspective, if we're not coming to that conversation prepared to talk about our own national character, about our own identity, our own approach to nation building, and we can't abstract back down into an actual policy and political level about how this works, But yeah, Russia and the United States both have responsibilities, and so there's always reasons that we don't fight. There's reasons we don't fight. There's reasons that we respect each other and go for diplomatic ends. And there's reasons that the values that we hold closest about American society and what Russian society is like or must be like, there's a reason that we can talk about those things. So who knows? Maybe next week, folks. You need to change the hair oil. This is sweat, dude. This is sweat, bro. I got done with a live stream and like a 2-mile run. It's 110 degrees in Arizona, so I'm actually literally nasty right now. Literally nasty. Yeah, Minnesota and Chicago, both very cold places. Start your car, back your car up, walk to the mailbox. Stealth Gamer calls me the caveman. What's up? Anybody else with that Neanderthal look, the Neanderthal brain? I hope you guys are doing super well. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Ooh, I'm trying to do it. Ooh, 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 ooh. Let's go. I'm a little bit of a caveman. I think so, baby. Stephen Winston says, Ducky, if you have the power to change something for the good, what would it be? What would it be? What would it be? If I had the power to change one thing, I would say that there's no political conversation that doesn't get back to human dignity and taking a complete view of what human dignity is like. It's something that we can just put up in front of us, and it's something that you have to be able to recognize. And so it's always confusing when you're trying to separate why we can't talk about human dignity and human values in that light. In the light of human dignity, we can't talk about human values. So what are the roles and responsibilities in politics that are driving this? Let's see here. Yeah, Neo Sapiens, if you start a YouTube comedy channel, I will subscribe. I will use my hard-earned thumbs and fingers to press the buttons on my cell phone. And I will make sure to subscribe to Neo Sapiens if you are doing Mitch Hedberg style comedy. All right, you got to be funny though. Just a little bit. I'm not saying you got to be happy, you just got to be funny. I saw a duck rip a pigeon's head off with his beak when I was a kid. Ooh, that's violent. Ducks. Oh my, I don't know why they call it geese silly. Ducks are a riot. Considering your audience, what is the main thing that you would change? Did I answer that one? I don't know if I answered. If I was to selfishly answer one thing about like what I would change about the channel, I don't know. One day in the next 12 months, I want to be able to do PC streams. I think it would be cool to be able to have PC streams with an audience of like 20, 25 people. And have people that want to hop up and actually contribute to like a chill, somewhat educational or somewhat accurate open space where we can talk about stuff. So really, yeah, if any of you guys are streamers and you haven't gone viral in your first two shorts, if you haven't hit 25 million views in your first two shorts, because that happens to some people and then that's what you do. But yeah, lower your goals. If you can have an audience of 10 or 12 people and you guys can hang out for your channel gets to keep that like 2-hour stream for 10 or 20 people. That's pretty cool. And yeah, yeah, that's the honest truth, right? It's the honest truth. Not really, but not really. Whoops, I'm way down. I'm skipping down to the bottom, guys. It's not too far, but my favorite war movie, Saving Private Ryan growing up was huge for me. I like that one. I like The Hurt Locker. The Hurt Locker was a little absurd. So The Hurt Locker was a crazy cool movie. Yeah, I don't know. Sicario is kind of a war movie. War movies are really dehumanizing. I don't know how your generation is going to go through that. But yeah, once I got my prefrontal cortex installed, yeah, I had to call Tesla. I called Tesla and Ford and I saw who had my warranty. And I was like, yeah, guys, I need my amygdala installed. I need my prefrontal cortex. You guys, we got to get all this stuff back up and running. This was when I was about 30, so I was pretty old. But you come to this stark realization that, wow, all of this stuff is propaganda. All of this stuff is propaganda. And yeah, I know that's probably upsetting for some people, but so I'm not like sensitive like that, but I know you're not asking that, but yeah, Sicario is probably my favorite war movie because it involves the CIA and SEAL teams technically. No spoilers, but yeah, that stuff's cool. Yeah, Jason Blackmore. I don't know if you're spying on me, Jason Blackmore. Sorry to just see that, but um, we've got. If you're spying on me, I've got. This is Ronald Dworkin's book. Do you guys like? If you guys like ducks, just wait till you meet the hedgehogs. And you know what the hedgehog. You know the whole point here is that the quote is that the fox knows one thing, but the hedgehog knows the fox knows many things, the hedgehog knows many things. And so this is about politics and justice, what justice means. And Ronald Dworkin says, well, all political conversations ultimately are about metaethics, or they can be in some light. You know, I'm sure there's some distinctions, but you know what that looks and sounds like is like, well, you know, don't I get to ask why it's right in a society to think about the vehicle that I buy, right? I have to think about, if I buy a truck, maybe I buy a truck for my family. And I have a meta-ethical position about why trucks are better than other vehicles for me. Why trucks are a better vehicle. I might have a position that I want to argue that buying a Prius or buying a sustainable car or not driving is a better thing for me. So, you know, Ronald Dworkin says that those are about society and stuff like that. I don't totally agree with that in general, right? You know, the other way of saying this is like, how is it moral if you wake up, you don't know where you woke up, but this is my own political theory. It's the best, by the way. It's the best. But if you just wake up and there is a fully functional car factory, it doesn't magically spit out cars, but you know it has a very mysterious value chain where steel and components and skilled workers go into it, and there's payroll going out. And people will tell you all these things, but all you know is that you wake up and there's this mysterious car factory next to you. Well, how is it about morality that I have a judgment or questions about how that factory actually works or where the stuff comes from, right? It's not about market capitalism. It's about society. It's about society. And so seeing that there's a big lever or mechanism next to you doesn't allow justice to just be meta-ethical. It's very scary, but it's very practical, maybe very political view. So, but yeah, I call my own political theory contra. It's just you know, very nerdy, but I call it contra philosophical justice, contra philosophical political theory, and it's this idea that you know, there are not these really grandiose normative justifications, and that is the sense in which justice is philosophical. So, hey, thanks, Sizzle Moonsong. I appreciate you, dog. Good to see you. Thank you, mods in the chat and everyone else. We have super religious leftists and atheist conservatives. Yeah, a lot of libertarian. There are atheist libertarians. Penn Jillette is probably the most famous and well-known. He's a celebrity. He's a magician. He used to have a television show. Yeah, he's a funny guy, huge skeptic, right? He's kind of a jerk sometimes to people. He's okay playing the jerk, but he's also okay having serious conversations. You know, a lot of those have that sort of slow burn to them. I don't know. Like, it sounds bad of me to say, I don't know if you're ever actually accurate, but that's being honest as well. I don't know if you're going to be a jerk if you're ever actually being accurate as well. Black Hawk Down? Hell yeah, that's a cool movie. If you guys have seen Black Hawk Down, let me know. It's really violent. It's really crazy. It's got those really like cutaway shots of like guys that you know are bad, supposed to be bad guys or whatever. And so, but it's also, yeah, you know, it's also really crazy stuff for sure. Very crazy stuff. Whatever. Issues with war movies is there's no way to keep entertaining without somewhat glorifying violence. Yeah. You know, one cool movie that does that is I think there's two, right? This is just my aesthetic opinion too. It's not like reality, but like Colombiana whatever her name is, Zoe Saldana, Zoe something or another, I think, but Colombiana and Quentin Tarantino movies, where they almost go so far into the character and their backstory that when you have violence, it's like, well, what else would this person do? This person's going to get into some serious stuff. This person's about to wreck somebody. This person's going to go like totally, glaze everybody, glaze everything, dude. And so I don't mean to be religious about that stuff, but it's like, if you do have a character who is only understandable and explained versus a movie like SEAL Team 6, where you have actual Navy SEALs saying stupid Navy SEAL shit, in a movie theater. It's like, well, that guy actually, the guy that's now acting in that movie actually killed people. He has a body count that's not about red pill, And so I do like Quentin Tarantino and stuff like that. But yeah, it's whatever. It's cool. Yeah, Special Forces with Diane Kruger. I'll have to watch that one. I haven't seen that. SF, Kill Bill or Tomb Raider. Kill Bill for sure. Danielle, sorry, I wasn't that big of a PlayStation gamer back in the day, so I love Kill Bill. I wasn't a big puzzler. I'm still not good at puzzles, but Kill Bill. Yeah, Kill Bill. The idea of communism versus capitalism is generally not political or economic conversation. It's normally about moral systems, what falls under justice. Is this similar to your example? Yeah, absolutely. And so like what I would say is that, if you're getting an explanation, from, Leninist Russia or something about how, inequality is continually produced, and this has produced industrial war. And so we're trying to avoid that. And so, to us, what it actually means to, have someone who had his arm cut off on a farm, got nothing for it. And also at the same time, we increased food production 15% last year, and that's a good thing for our society. You have to be able to take that whole argument as well. This is communism. So I don't know if it's moral or unethical just because it's communism, but within communism, maybe it's moral or unethical, or maybe it is justified. It's just. Maybe there's only specific instances of injustice like any other system. And so like in capitalism, someone saying like, who knows? You can like juxtapose this situation and you can say, well, like, look, there's a poor white family in rural Alabama who has had no economic stimuli for 5 decades. And they say, well, yeah, it's not fair. Our system isn't fair. There's wealthy people in power, blah, 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 blah. But I also didn't expect to be rich. I didn't expect to be rich. I knew I would have to fight tooth and nail, and that just isn't happening. So as it turns out, all the information that I have versus what I would need to be able to do, it's unjust, but it's unjust for a reason that's not specifically about like Bill Gates or something like that, right? It's not Bill Gates specifically. That might be similar. That's not that philosophical to say, well, this is similar to a black person in the 40s saying, yeah, if it is the case that Harvard's not opening their doors to black people in 1940, well, then it's also true that in 1941, when I'm going to college, Harvard is probably not, I can apply, but Harvard is probably not going to open their doors to me. Right. And so this might be about Harvard, but if I'm thinking about going to Harvard, I'm already asking beyond it or something like that. Who knows? Maybe Harvard did allow enough black people in their private university. And so this isn't like philosophical because I'm never actually saying that I have an injustice because, people are so dedicated to egalitarianism. They're so dedicated to that. No, but within capitalism and within communism, within what society is, you can tell me why those specific examples are ethical or unjust. Right? I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know if it would make sense and whatever. Not that good of an idea. It's a bad idea. Market capitalism is our material reward system and will affect society. Cool. Yeah, incentives. Yeah, and people and animals, people don't respond to incentives the same way animals do. That's a good point. That's cool. But yeah, Dan O'Reilly, Daniel Kahneman are at least two that have studied this. Um, that's all I know about it. Behavioral economics, and you know, this is talking about like utility maximization and stuff like this. What is utility? What is utility when it's only when we say utility and it's about cost and benefit, cost and reward, opportunity costs as well. Opportunity cost being the thing that takes an idea and moves outside of what will happen to us. Right? You can't get rid of the fact that you lost an opportunity. In a less grandiose sense, you might never be the person that opens a Ferrari dealership. But if you have a lot of money, you're always going to be that person that didn't open the Ferrari dealership when you could have. If you're uber wealthy, if you're starting a business, you're the person who didn't open. So, but people don't view either choices or opportunity cost in the way that we think. It's not like linear. It's not perfectly rational. So if I had a kid daughter, I'd probably show her a call to spy a shit ton of women in war. I'll have to check that one out. What is that one called? A call to war. Summons or appeal to engage in armed conflict. A book. It's a book. I don't know. My grandma was a nurse, but yeah, the original OSS conversion to the CIA was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like they wanted 30% women to go from the sabotage unit into a clandestine intelligence agency, But yeah, I'm not seeing a call to spy, not a call to war, a call to spy. Whoops. Oh, cool. War thriller from 2019. Boy, I'm gonna have to watch this. This is an indie movie. This looks cool. Yeah, this looks cool. Cool. Yeah, good shout out. Good shout out. That's really cool. Yeah. Some positive reinforcement is always better than abuse or negative punishment, generally, unless you're into BDSM. Real girls are jealous at me because their boyfriends want me, but I like cool. Yeah, I hope I got that handsome look is cool. Very handsome look. Yeah. You look like a convicted child, something that got out of here. Hey, what's up, Ishitaro? Ishimor. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you. Hope you're well. Hope you're good. Yeah. Let's see, if you want to hang out, you can come back in like 30 minutes, dude. No offense. Yeah. The movie Walk on Water, Hebrew, Romanized, blah, 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 is a Israeli drama directed by Eitan Fox. It follows Eyal, an Israeli Mossad agent who's tasked with tracking down Nazi war criminals. That sounds cool. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I loved your work in chat. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan, Rex Boy. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, Hulk Hogan, big time U.S. wrestler, big MAGA supporter. He was a big personality, and yeah, a lot of people's childhood hero, someone they looked up to as a public leader. And so, yeah, just regardless of Hulk Hogan's legacy, what maybe like Chris Hitchens, if he was around today, might say about someone like Hulk Hogan. Obviously, rest in peace, Hulk. Yeah, rest in peace. Yeah, issues in capitalism, absolutely. So, the geopolitical implications as well, where you're almost forcing countries like Congo or a lot of countries that have resources to say, well, you have to your first political question, because we buy so many computers and we all agree computers are pretty awesome, right? There's no one that can actually criticize how sick computers and smartphones are. But yeah, if you're in a what Donald Trump once called, these crap rat hole countries, your first political question, it appears sometimes, is how much do you mine each year and who controls that? Who gets money? How much taxes are paid? What goes from that taxes? And so, yeah, there's always a strong argument that ethically you need to have a support structure, and competitively that system doesn't exist forever. So that system's not going to exist forever. And it's like, as if from the heavens, you have common sense being spoken to people who are supposed to fight and die about this stuff. It's like, well, cool, good first step. This might not be totally accurate, but at least you're being honest. And so, yeah, I gotta have love and respect for blue collar folks. My dad worked in environmental services, so he was out in the 100-degree Arizona sun like a lot of people. Smart guy, he knows a lot of organic chemistry and stuff. And he was either writing project plans or managing crews earlier in his career that would be doing a lot of dangerous environmental work with chemicals and stuff. So I respect blue collar folks who either make a lot, don't make a lot, have stability, don't have stability, this kind of stuff, for sure. And yeah, that just having that sort of spirit of compassion goes really far. It goes so far, guys. You'd be surprised about it. Sometimes if a girl needs attention, they would do anything just to get one. Belinda's fine, dude. I don't know the context, but yeah, you can say you feel beautiful and sexy and stuff, whatever. I've seen worse. So sorry, Belinda. I don't know if I have a way, even as a channel owner, to untime you out, or I don't know if you got timed out or just deleted, but yeah. I've seen worse. People don't realize that the clearest, and our analogs, we start developing. Okay, we need a lighter topic. Who's your favorite Golden Girl? I don't know. My favorite Golden Girl is that X at the top of the screen, guys. I'm crashing out a little bit, but hey, what's up, Duck? Hey, Petey Pablo, North Carolina, come on and raise up, take your shirt off and spin around your head, spinning like a helicopter. North Carolina, come on and raise up, take your shirt off and spin around your head, spinning like a helicopter. Woo! Let's go. Petey Pablo, more than being sorry, I meant Chambers of Logic. What's up? Good to see you. Marxist communism is anti more than myself. Cool. Oh, I'm way gone on chat, guys. I'm way gone. Doug, should we hang out sometime? How tall are you? I don't know, Belinda. You can sign up for the Discord. But yeah, I don't see how my height or my emotive capacity would impact our ability to hang out. You'd be welcome to come up on a panel, but if you want to do that kind of stuff, I'd recommend the Panelverse for you. You can look up the Powdered Dusty on YouTube. You can look up Jack Talcott. Just those two is maybe my first recommendations. Jack Talcott and Powdered Dusty. Nice guys, full-time streamers, so they're professional streamers. If you want to talk about whatever it is, they're usually pretty opening, inviting, that kind of stuff. So cool. Whoops. Oh, yeah, no insulting people in chat, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. I want to give a shout out to hey, Alessandra Rouse. Appreciate you. Yeah, try to avoid a little bit of racial stereotyping. I don't know if that's helpful to hear, but yeah, I'm sure you got great ideas, strong ideas, and they're even better if you're not being racist, my friend. Thank you. Appreciate it. Are you religious or non-religious? Do you have your... Yeah, I just posted a video about anti-theism. I'm secular. I will debate religion. I don't try and actively deconvert people. I don't try to actively deconstruct stuff for other people. Not usually, not unless you ask. But yeah, I'm an atheist. I'm secular. Former Roman Catholic. So yeah. Having your identify as a forefront may hinder productive discussions. Yeah, if you're looking at productive discussions and stuff like that, most important thing probably is before, going into a discussion, make sure you've done a little bit of research, make sure you know some arguments, and be open-minded, right? If you have an argument that doesn't allow you to be open-minded, then how are you going to have a discussion? And then, yeah, you also having your own boundaries. This is emotional maturity. If you're going to sit there and listen to people talk about their own faith or lack of faith or political beliefs, some people don't enjoy tolerating other people's bullshit, BS, whatever. Sorry, no offense. Some people like that stuff. And so for me, I'm looking at trying to engage people in, not necessarily good faith, but honest political discussions where people are saying, let's sit here, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it and do IRL stuff, folks. Let's go, baby. Gender is a construct. I'm going to stay out of the gender debate just for now, guys. Be respectful, please. Be a little bit respectful, please. Thank you. Appreciate that. Or whatever. Yeah. If we're living, in a society and we're sort of stacking up ideas and we're saying, well, this is actually how we live. And we don't want to be unhinged or anything like that. Let's be a little bit respectful, guys. Yep. Yeah. Pump the brakes a little bit on some of the some of the long debates and discussions theists and atheists have. Okay, guys, what were you going to accomplish anyways? Yeah, if it's fun, good fun for everyone, cool. Let's do a late night stream or something. I'm down with that stuff, but so. Martin Arab, your gender is in your, that's usually classified as biological sex or one outward sign of biological sex. So yeah, what is life? A lot of people don't know viral specimens aren't classified as life biologically. So at least for that definition that we use and why we use that definition, if we should, you can have DNA and not be considered life. Do you know anything about trans perspectives or how some girls like wearing jeans? Jesus wore a dress, I'd rock that kilt. These cyclist legs are muscly. I don't want to jump into someone else's conversation, but if you're talking about muscly legs or whatever it is, yeah, cycling and good recovery as well as a weight routine, running, and yeah, being able to balance multiple goals. And so, yeah, just work hard, work smart, folks. Rottenstein. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Are we alone in the universe? Yeah, what is that? There's an equation for that one. Quantum mechanics, also very cool. Whatever, something else. Yeah. If you have a specific topic, Rottenstein, I'm happy to talk about those ones a little bit too. Yeah. System evolution is a fascinating topic. What does it mean if we say that our only really coherent cosmological perspective is that you have systems that evolve over time, and they're just systems that evolved even, right? Even without that temporal description, so that's sort of a fascinating way of looking at quantum mechanics and looking at things like events. When we're looking at the actual standard model and we're saying, well, the standard model produces these impactful, almost kinetic sort of interactions in our universe. And these are just a big part of a necessary cosmological story. That stuff's always super fascinating. Fermi paradox, yeah, hell yeah. So, yeah, and so it's always really fascinating when we're seeing, like, yeah, who knows, what are the ways in which the universe actually interacts consistently? What percentage of the universe would a unified standard model actually describe, or what percentage of reality in a philosophical sense would this universe describe? Are we satisfied or happy with the state of physics? Is that why we do theories of everything? Would you guys be honest about it with me? Thank you, please. Appreciate it. I don't know, but what about the fact that science thinks we are now in a black hole, literally inside a supermassive black hole? Yeah, it's cool. That's like a cosmological idea that even if you have black holes is just what physics and information ultimately creates, and reality is housed within the spatial regions of this. I don't know that I totally understand all that. I believe it's consistent with like a holographic principle. It's consistent. It's from like Stephen Hawking's work a little bit, and stuff that people like Leonard Susskind have done. You guys are going to be over my head really fast here. And so, yeah, it's interesting. It's always interesting if you can actually maintain what a fundamental object must be like, what a system is, that what we have actual empirical evidence of. Can you maintain sort of kinetic views of universes being necessarily about these physics descriptions in physics, just that physics descriptions. I'm so sorry, right? If that's true, is that important to maintain those things? Or if it's not important to maintain those things, but we still need to talk about evolution in a holographic or singularity sense, what percentage of our universe empirically would that describe? I don't know that I have an answer for any of that stuff right now. But those types of questions are also about perhaps our own biases and psychologies. They're perhaps about the way society relates to science and technology. They're also perhaps about the actual practical mechanisms that we're able to go out and pursue in a nonlinear way. And so that stuff's really cool. That stuff's really fun. Yeah. And yeah, maybe it's also the case that when we talk about something like system evolution, we almost do adopt these almost like spiritual conventions where we say that there almost has to be more to this idea. When we talk about the actual nature of an idea, it only appears beyond the natural in a sense that science appreciates, in the sense that for sure this idea, it's not about theology or something like that. I'm an atheist, but it's also, it would be true and cool in some sense that this idea of a little system that creates reality. Well, those what reality must be like is on par with both the entailments as well as actual empirical sort of worldview that we claim from this stuff. I don't know if any of that makes sense. Probably doesn't, but yeah. And so even as we're trying to find like the best way to navigate small descriptions and possibilities and all this other shit, all this other crap, it's just cool. It's just cool, right? I don't know. Atheists believe in nothing. How do you believe in nothing? Hey, good question, Chief Wiggum. Yeah, good question for sure. Yeah, if that's a good question, cool. The way I would respond to that is that, yeah, the fact that I believe I can believe in knowledge claims that are actually about the world around me. I know the boundaries of where I am, length, height, width, time, that kind of stuff. I have a lot of confidence in those, right? I don't think I ever get to a disgusting view where I believe in nothing because of that. I think it just means it's hard to find good faith conversations sometimes. Maybe it's not. Maybe for you, it's actually easy to find good faith conversations sometimes. And yeah, that's not fair of me to judge you either. You know, you said I probably believe in nothing, so how do I believe in nothing? But yeah, I couldn't say. Yeah, and I couldn't say, like, you know, who knows, whatever you find from that, but I couldn't say it for sure. So no offense, dude. No offense to my good friend, Chief Wiggum. What up, buddy? What up? Bring your opinions, folks. Bring your ideas. Let's talk about your idea. Is that a baseball top behind you? What's the story? I got Eric Clapton. I got a little rainbow. I got something, a poster one of my friends got me from a bluegrass festival. I got Michael Jordan, and I got books. I got just a couple books. Books that come up frequently. The red top. Red book. I don't know. That one's The Bonobo and the Atheist. It's a book by a biologist, Franz de Waal, where he makes an argument about atheism and just the way our brains work and morality and stuff like that. So talks about society. Yeah, it's cool stuff, right? It's cool stuff. I put this one away, but this is the painting I painted. I got a painting I painted too, folks. We're gonna auction it off, and now starting at $750,000. We need one wealthy patron for Duck for Life. Nathan Swift, Duck for Life, starting at $750,000. This is called Some Bottles of Whatever on apparently a table, apparently next to a guitar, apparently next to an amp, oil on canvas with handprints on it. $750,000. Do I hear $750,000? Going once, going twice, going twice, going twice. We got a painting, folks. This is your one shot to get in on something like this. You're not going to want to miss it ever in your life. God, why do I like bluegrass so much? Hell yeah. All right. Yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to close off the stream. I think I just sold my painting somewhere. 2 million, Eden Star. Oh my God, you're my hero. I'd have never thought I'd find somebody so generous, Miss Eden Star. I'll tell you what, when I was just a little poor boy back in Alabama, I remember my daddy and my daddy's daddy telling me there were good people, good Christian people in the world, fine folks, good people all around the world, secular other folks. And he'd tell me one day if I worked hard enough, they'd put a quarter in my pocket that I'd never let go of. And I'll tell you what, I haven't. So Eden Star, $2 million, I'll tell you I'll make the most of it. One day you can fly out to Phoenix, Arizona. I'll make you a vegan fish taco you won't ever forget. I'll tell you what, you ain't gonna forget it. I might tell you in a humble manner, I'm gonna make you some shrimp out of pea protein like you've never seen. It's gonna be a drive-through, but I'll tell you what, I'll bust out the fine china, the silverware, and you can come sit on down if you give me $2 million. I don't got Cash App, Eden Star. We're going to have to coordinate a little better than that. So you and I will work something out, won't we? All right, $2 million. Y'all heard it here first. This is why you don't put up a donation link, folks. You find a wealthy patron who just wants to really crawl into your heart, and you're going to crawl into theirs in the way that's most appropriate. I do it through vegan food and passionate acting. All right, folks. So I'm going to end with hello, goodbye. Oh, it is love from the first time we set my eyes upon yours. Thinking, oh, is it love? Go ahead and like and subscribe if you guys want. I appreciate it. I'll see y'all again. Oh, dear. It's been hardly a moment and you are already missed. There is still a bit of your skin that I let to have kissed. Oh, say please do not go, but you know that I must. And oh, say I love you so, but you know you can trust. I'll be holding hands once again. All our broken hands will amend. And I will kiss you close so you know, oh, it is love from the first time I set my eyes upon yours. Thinking, oh, is it love? You're Love may long for a love that is more new. So when I'm gone, oh, these things will be yours to ease every fear, and I'll dry up every tear, and I'll make it very clear that, oh, it is love from the first time I set my eyes upon your